Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special episode of our podcast on finance transformation. I'm Pranav Kumar, CEO of ICT Technologies, and I'm excited to set the stage for what promises to be an insightful and engaging discussion. At ICT Technologies, we're passionate about fostering conversations that inspire innovation and transformation, especially in areas where technology intersects with strategy. Finance as a function has seen incredible shifts over the past decade, evolving from a back office enabler to a strategic partner that drives growth, innovation, and resilience. In today's episode, we will delve into the transformation, exploring the critical role of leadership, strategy, technology, and data in shaping the modern finance function. We'll also touch on the evolving role of CFOs, who are now expected to be not just financial custodians, but strategic leaders who are influencing long term business success. To guide this conversation, we have two exceptional leaders joining us today. Rakesh, who is a CFO at Gate Group, who brings a wealth of experience in driving transformative finance initiatives at organizations like Sodexo and GLS by the Mac. His deep understanding of aligning financial strategy with business goals will add tremendous value to this discussion. We also have with us Taher Jhanjharya, who is a group CFO at AFS Facility Services, who has been at the forefront of steering his organization through a financial transformation. Taher is all about embracing innovation. He's got an all-inclusive approach and integrating sustainability into finance strategies. Rakesh and Taher will explore a range of topics, including the shift in CFO's role from a functional enabler to strategic partner, how technologies like AI, RPA, and data analytics are reshaping finance operations, the challenges and the opportunities in driving transformation for both SMEs and enterprises. And lastly, how sustainability and ESG are redefining priorities for finance leaders. This episode is designed to provide practical insights and forward thinking perspectives for the CFOs and finance professionals in the region. So, let's get started with the discussion. Over to Taher and Rakesh.
Good day to all of you, and welcome to this podcast. A podcast on a subject that is really exciting to me, and the two reasons why I'm very excited about this subject. One, particularly because it is very close to my heart, and during my career, I have gone through this, through this period of transformations, which has been key to my success in my career. And I think the subject itself, which is finance transformation, in today's world is very important for any finance function leaders, CFOs, because transformation will help in the evolution of the CFOs.
Absolutely.
I am Rakesh Panicker, working today in Gate Group as CFO in Gate Group Doha, Qatar. And previously I've held CFO roles in Sodexo and in GLS by Damac, and in the region managing the CFO function in Middle East and Africa. I've always believed transformation is key to the success of any CXOs, by the way, and particularly for CFOs from those days where we were looked as bookkeepers, accountants, or just churning out the balance sheet and some analysis. Then we became enablers, and now I think we are more than enablers. We have transformed to a strategic partner. I have successfully tried to bring in those transformation, or those, I would say, key transformation activities that would lead in achieving our objective goals. But the second reason why I'm really excited today is the person who is here, the main actor. I'm very happy to introduce to you Taher Jhanjharya, the CFO of EFS Facilities Middle East, EFS Services, EFS Facilities Services. And I look forward to receive from his expertise, opinion, and how he has, found this, or how he has used finance transformation in his role. Hi, Taher, how are you?
I'm good, Rakesh. How are you doing?
I'm good too. Good to have you.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here, and I want to use the experience to learn from you a lot more about finance transformation than I speak about it. But definitely this is something which is very close to our hearts. I think today, as you rightly mentioned, a lot of CXOs and specifically CFOs are counting on this as a tool in the next few years to take it forward.
Yeah, I think CFOs, many of them would like to tread this path. They know about this, the transformation, because it's happening now. Transformation comes in with new faces.
Yeah.
They would like to tread this path, but some people remain in their comfort zone. And then, it's just the resources and how to do it is where they find the challenging part. Okay. So let's go to the very first question that we have, or first subject that I would like to bring up, Taher, is how do you see finance, or when I say finance, CFO basically role today, the strategic shift happening in the finance industry, with the CFOs particularly, how they bring that strategic shift, and where do you see they leading to?
See, I think over the last 20 years that I've been involved in the financial role, I have seen finance roles change. And you rightly mentioned it, we have played roles of, bookkeepers, from bookkeepers to enablers. I think all of these years, our roles have been very inward towards finance per se.
Interesting.
We look at how our finance procedures are, how our policies are, what can we do to make our finance systems better. But I think now the requirement for CFOs is that they have to assume that their financial function is given. It's core bread and butter. It's structured. It's running well and a well-oiled machine. And the data analytics and the output that they produce is towards that strategic partnership outwards toward the business. So they're no longer required to just talk about finance, but they're talking about the business. They're supposed to be part of that business cycle, and they're supposed to be able to generate value by contributing to the business through their financial knowledge, not just talk about their own ownership. And I think this transformation is where that strategic partnership comes in, that enablement business partnership comes in. Because unless you have the mastery of your own subject, if you don't know your background, how are you going to lead the business forward?
Yeah.
And today I see a lot more CFOs involved in beyond financial matters. It's a discussion about business development. The CFOs are sitting there. It's a discussion about legal issues. The CFOs are sitting there. They're contributing across that cycle. And I think that's where I see that shift taking place.
So you believe that today's CFO, they have to really come out of their silos. They have to be involved as much as the CEO or any other CXO, involved in the various facets of the organization. As you said, rightly said, business development. I think it's a very key part, because business development or sales, whatever they call it as, people sometimes feel that let them get the business and then I'll manage it. But today it has changed, because there's a risk, there's legal exposures, there are compliance matters. Absolutely. And it's very important that we do not wait to do to wait for the out. We try to address the situation much ahead before we try to do the diagnosis of it. But where do you face the challenges? Do you think when there are various functions in a finance in an organization, which includes business development, legal, IT, operations, supply chain. How do you carry them? All of them may not be well balanced in their thought process or equally ready. So what do you think about organizational readiness on that subject?
To be very honest, I think if you go out and read statistics about this, we'll get statistics as if 80% of companies have adopted financial transformation and 20% companies have adopted AIs, and there are multiple numbers out there. The problem is all of these numbers are defined to the spectrum that they're looking the answer for. For example, if somebody's looking for, what have you done on AI? Some people have done AI, but the output of that AI is not actually measured in the result that it's oriented. It's about implementing of the AI tool itself. But that may not give the result that you want. And this is what gives me a larger view that businesses today have, across their multiple dimensions, talked about transformation, talked about digitalization, but have not comprehensively done so. And this is where you have different departments having different structures, different departments having different approaches. And to bring them together, I think the core thing comes in is data. Do we go down to bringing the data from the source of origin, keep it as a single point of truth, and then using that point of truth to actually make the next case or next example forward? if you have that right data, if you have the right analytics around it, you are able to then bring multiple stakeholders onto the same platform, have that same discussion, have that same decision making view, rather than having divergent views because people do not understand or relate to that data, and then have that departments move forward. Today we often see that multiple stakeholders try to control data to keep it within themselves.
Yes.
And I think that is an enemy of an organization that's looking to transform.
True.
The transformation will come through from the fact that data is free flowing. I'm not talking about sensitive data. Definitely there will be boundaries for that sensitivity, but at least the information that is required between leaders to make rightful decisions have to be free flowing. And this is something which I believe a lot of work needs to be done within our organization and many organizations across the globe.
You have well said that even I have faced this challenge when we wanted to go for some transformation, well, and as a wholesome transformation, and I had tried to introduce some project called EASE, making elimination, automation, and standardization. It takes time to convince the fellow CXOs, the fellow CXO roles. It's purely because, again, some people are not just ready for the change. I think you have very well said that data, and how do we bring the data into and the presentation of that will help us in making decision, or will help us in at least understanding that, hey, we need to go ahead with some changes and transformation. But within your experience, have you faced issues where you didn't find your company agile, or some people agile, and it took a lot of convincing from you, not just with, of course, numbers and data, but how did you then manage that situation? Because at the end of the day, we are, one of the key players or key role in the organization.
See, I think if I say that no, we have not faced an issue, I think that's going to be an overstatement. But
True.
I think every business have people who are resistant to change, and I think resistance to change is more a human reflex rather than a business organizational culture matter.
Oh, well said, yeah.
Businesses can have the best culture to adopt new matters, but the first human reaction to any change is fight or flight. So I think yes, we have had organizational challenges where talking about a process change or talking about an organizational adoption of a new technology have had these challenges. But I think the question comes down to something which I learned very well early on is the answer to a why. If you define the why, then if people understand that why, people are able to take that why forward, then they're able to actually make a informed decision to adopt that change and make the change management possible. And this is where I took forward why, and I divided that into 3 parts. I said what needs to be done,
okay,
how it's to be done, and what is the results that are going to come out. What is the yield? So that's how the why needs to be defined for anybody else. Yes. Because unless you're going to somebody and saying, you do this, it will help you this way, it's a very general statement. People may just absorb it from their mental consciousness. But if you actually want to put that into your subconscious, then you need to put the what needs to be done, and if they do that, what will be the results of that has to be embedded into their next way forward.
Yeah.
And I think that why theory for me has been a very key thing when I try to work with my team members and my colleagues. Yes. As to if I'm doing this change, what am I bringing to the table for you?
I think that's one point where you said about the why, how, and what is obviously when we try to bring in a change of transformation, it has a bit of uncharted territory for some people. And one of the key things that comes out, and it depends on the size of the organization, is the resources and the cost, of course. And finance is one of the resource. Where I have faced challenge is balancing, is trying to get those resources on table. That includes the finance, convincing to spend so much because there is a long-term ROI there, okay. And also the people, because the people who have been with you. So let's go back to the cost part, the resources part. What are the low-hanging fruits that we can catch or we can show to the management as, here it is, if you do this particular process as we have demonstrated to you, this is the ROI for you.
I think the answer is very well, it's part of the structure, right? And I think the answer is easier for an organization that's growing very rapidly. because the moment the organization is growing rapidly, you have the ability to utilize tools and techniques to be able to augment actually the resources that you already have, make them more productive, make them more output driven, and then remove the low lying fruits, which is reconciliations and data management, administration. In today's world, data protection, data security itself become part of that cycle and structure. So it is a very easy discussion to be had in an organization that is growing, because you can invest that funds, you can invest that structure, and you can show that you're able to turn people who are yesterday a mere admins and accountants to tomorrow's managers and leaders. It becomes much more harder, definitely, with organizations that are growing at a slower pace, because that means you need to talk about replacing people or augmenting resources that have already been there in the structure, and then automating some of those roles.
True. In fact, the challenge that I have faced is people. More, there are a lot of low-hanging fruits. It can start with a transformation through a shared service center, through some automation with the bank reconciliation, or as simple as MT940. But the challenge that I have faced has been people, and that there's a legacy, systems legacy of people, which takes a lot of time to do a convincing.
Absolutely.
There's obviously attrition because of that, and this has been. But we have to bite the bullet where we have to, and bring those changes across. But do you think? I'm sorry. Do you think CFOs? Obviously, we are not CIOs. We are CFOs, and obviously we need that technology to support us, because technology is in abundance. As soon as ChatGPT came out, there's so many other, such platforms that have come out with artificial intelligence. What do you see the role of the CIOs in terms of help, or how do you work with them to ensure that we have the right tool, rather than just shopping for anything and bringing a transformation?
If I'm honest, Mr. Rakesh, I think the concept of having a separate CIO is something which we need to transform.
Yes.
Because it's my view that I think business users have to take independent ownership of how their innovation takes place. They know the processes, they know the approach that their business goes through, and if they have a role, a leadership role, a true leadership role, can actually look to transform that function. And that's what we are doing. For example, at EFS today, we are working to transform our entire business platform into an open digital tool which can provide data as and when required, and into the format that is required. And that innovation did not come through an independent person or an independent research. It came through the entire finance team sitting down in a room and saying, how can I make myself better? How can I innovate myself from merely doing reports to actually bringing output on the table? So that's where the innovation comes in. And I think if every different departments, every different team member starts to analyze what functions they play, and they're able to actually increase that output, what they're able to do is bring solutions on the table that are much more business oriented. Therefore you remove the challenge of having change management going through, where different departments are trying to enforce different procedures on different people, and then you have to try to convince. So the biggest issue with CIOs and CTOs is getting leadership to accept that technology platform up.
Okay.
But imagine if a finance leader is bringing the technology for finance, he is having that ownership to actually make that difference. If the HR is bringing the technology that makes a difference to his department, he's going to take the ownership for that. So I think CIOs and CTOs are required per se from their role, but they are going to play an acting role to support the CFOs and the CXOs in actually implementing and researching the product rather than bringing the solution to the table.
Yes.
And this transformation will actually also change the adoption cycle. Today, technology is changing so fast that if you do not adopt the technology in a set defined time, you're actually going to end up having that technology obsolete. And if you have a technology that's going to become obsolete after 6 to 18 months, you want to implement that as fast as you can and get benefit as fast as you can. So the cycle completely changes.
Yes.
What we were able to do earlier in 2 years and 3 years in terms of adopting an ERP, and then after that looking for a 5-year return cycle, no longer exist. Within 3 years, the solution needs to go through an upgrade itself.
True. I mean, are you afraid of the so-called word artificial intelligence? Because many people are just getting worried about it. As any new technology has come before, people have been worried. Oh, now when the computers came, I remember people were saying that they will lose their job. But I believe artificial intelligence, as any technology is, will only help us they will be an enabler for me. There would be somebody who is we should know how to use it to ensure what we can gain out of that. What is your first few thoughts on the AI
So I think
dilemma?
I think it's such an important discussion that you can't leave it out of this podcast. So I think
Yes.
good thing you brought it up. I think AI today has become a mostly second most used word when it comes to the discussion on technology. So transformation and then followed by AI is the general theme of any AI any technology discussions today. But I think from a business perspective, I think people who will learn to use AI are the ones who are going to be the winners for the next cycle of growth.
Yes.
I mean, in my organization alone, I've seen so many people start using AI to make sure that their emails are very polished. You can't suddenly you've seen a change in the level of communication, the level of commentary that they provide you, and I think it is important for organizations to provide that tool in a safe manner. So ChatGPT, Gemini, and all of these tools are great tools, but they're not for private consumption for an organization. So at EFS, we have created an AI tool which is available internally for our private consumption, and which has helped organizational employees access a tool safely. However, I think there's still a lot more larger role to play when it comes to AI adoption within the larger framework. So, we have talked about how can we bring AI tool on the data that we have? How can we make that data more accessible safely to our staff so that they can improve the amount of information they can churn? And there are some, great steps that we've taken in that direction. Before we get to that stage, getting the right data into the database is our first step right now.
But where was your starting point? Where did you feel in your career? We have been with EFS for some time. Where did you feel in your career that, hey, this is it's a transcendence towards to ensure that the transformation I need to enable? What drove you towards it? Is this the cost factor? What are the main factors that drove you towards that?
So, I mean, I started at EFS when EFS was a 100 million dirham company.
Okay.
Today, alhamdulillah, we'll be crossing around 2 billion.
Congrats.
So in 10 to 15 years, thank you for that. And in 10 to 15 years, we have grown significantly. And I think from the time I've joined EFS, our CEO, our management, our leaders, our shareholders, everybody had the drive to ensure that this company is bigger than what it was and that churn continues. Even today, we're talking about, quadrupling and continue our growth story over the next few years as well. So the churn and the drive is always there. However, that churn and growth cannot come if I have to survive on a legacy system or a legacy technology platform, because the way the expansion and the portfolio is going to grow, we need to be having the right infrastructure for it. So I think since 2012, we have worked in multiple steps. It's not been an easy journey at all. It's been multiple solutions, multiple technologies that we have tried our hands on, and I think that journey continues. But it is the need to continuously evolve, the kind of support that we have got to be fearless in adopting that technology has been one of the key parts, and we've always been pushed. If you can do something with one, why can't you do it with a half? So that push has always been a continuous driver in the business, and that has been embedded within us into our system so well that we will continue to work towards improving any step forward. So I think it's been driven in, right? It's been embedded at such an early stage when you join the organization that that's something which you got to do.
And that's a key thing. I think what you said about how the organization has quantum jump in the revenue and has become such a large organization. I think the culture is of innovation and, as you said, step-by-step acceptance of the fact that we need to transform. But do you face challenge when you look back 10 years back, the agility part comes again? I bring that question again, and I feel I have myself felt a lot in some organizations where at point of time the decision takes a lot of, it goes through a process, and the whole the due diligence process is so long in that you lose a bit of time and cost in that. So even when you were 100 million, and now even at this stage, have you remained that agile, and what has kept your organization so agile? Because again, as you become large, the processes and the actors become increased.
I think we are highly agile. I would not say we are as agile as we were when we were a 100 million company, because definitely the processes and departments have grown. But we are highly agile. And the reason for that is, again, the way the company has been cultured around driven-oriented, result-oriented approach. So, you can be as busy as you want. You can be, doing 100 things if you want to be busy. But unless you're delivering that value and output, there is actually no result being counted. So the entire drive that everybody needs to actually focus on is, how can I complete this and close this? And therefore, the CEO is accessible. Me as a CFO is accessible to the team. Different leaders are accessible to meet with different types of people. And I think I've seen that the amount of collaboration that can happen between different team members when you remove barriers for meeting and discussing and taking decisions, remove the entire bureaucracy. So a process can be followed. Yes, an organization needs to follow a right process. But sometimes that process is, if there are 5 approvals required, those 5 approvals can happen within one room. Nobody said that every one approval needs to be in a separate room. So those kind of changes in decisions when have to be taken are encouraged to be able to make a faster decision. And then nobody's stopped from making a opinion about a decision. So if they're sitting in a room, they have a concern, address the concern out, but nothing gets stopped because they have a concern.
Yes.
How do we address the concern? How do we mitigate it? Can we mitigate it? Yes. Let's discuss that approval then.
And that's the procrastination, to avoid the procrastination.
Exactly. So get everybody in a room. If that's what's going to take for approval to happen, let's get it happen. But again, before we get to that stage, the only thing that takes time is getting the data into place.
Okay.
Once the data is in place, then yes, let's sit and approve and take things forward. Why should we wait?
I also think we are living in a fantastic city, Dubai, where new I would say, accepting the AI, accepting the new trends in artificial intelligence as well, or any new innovations that's coming, and that overall the culture of innovation exists in Dubai itself, which helps also the organization to be part of that culture and progress ahead. And I think the one subject that you brought just before this point that I raised is of the SME, of the company becoming from 100 million to a larger turnover, is a same challenge that all the SMEs face. SMEs do face this challenge. They might have grown to a reasonable volume of business because of a fantastic idea, some innovation, but then they are not able to break through that, and that's purely because of the transformation not happening, not understanding, and there are many challenges that they face. So the key difference, what do you think are the key differences in transformation between the SMEs and the large enterprises? I think you have answered partly before, but I just would like to emphasize on that point a bit.
I think one is ensuring that you are result oriented. That's something which has to be a very key part. You can talk about the best brilliant ideas of the future. You can try to bring in the most advanced technology, but it should not be a tokenism. It should not be just bringing a technology or transformation idea into place to the purpose of just saying, yes, I have adopted AI into every single transaction of mine. But does it actually improve the business? It actually does result in a result-oriented outcome.
Yes.
So I think ensuring that you keep an eye on that, so that you don't spend up sending millions onto a transformation journey, which is actually not going to be valuable to you till you actually achieve a business size that is for that kind of investment.
Yes.
And I've seen this far too many times, that organizations go, as part of that transformation journey, they envision that growth to be big, and therefore they spend today for what that growth will look like. But then they can't sustain it, and actually that starts to pile on and bring you backwards. I think you have to be smart about what you're going to spend on for tomorrow, what are you going to spend on for today, and it has to be based on what you're going to spend, what you have spent in the past.
I think you're right. The first point, as you said, is you have to be very clear about your objective and what your need is. Otherwise, you are in in on an ocean and you don't know where
Absolutely.
which fish to catch actually.
Absolutely.
I have also experienced being part of an organization which has many businesses, and some large, some very large, and some are medium sized, and there's an imbalance between in the priorities that's been in the priorities on systems and automation and technology. And one big challenge has been to convince the bigger brother that, hey, we are also here, even though it's not a small business.
Absolutely.
Is to consider us in the realm of the transformation, or leave us independent from the realm of transformation, from your transformation journey. In such cases, just to put yourself into such cases, what would be your advice to CFOs who are part of a huge group having multiple businesses, and he's an SME in that group? What do you think could be, do you think he should take his journey through?
I think businesses need to have ownership for their respective businesses. So if for example we have mentioned about a smaller business in a larger group, I believe that business needs to take their own ownership journey instead of relying on a larger group ownership. And that's because that business is a separate business unit, is a smaller business unit for a purpose. It's been carved out of the larger group for the specialization that they bring to the table. And nobody in the larger group is going to sit and understand what are the specific needs that this business needs if they need to evolve.
Okay.
The business ownership of that group will lie with the owners of that leadership, and they will need to be much more stronger in being able to portray their picture, take that independent ownership and start with that procedure, because they can't be expected to go across explaining to the top guys that we are here and we can do this bigger, because they don't have the financial strength to do so. If I was the CFO of the larger group, I usually would like to independently isolate those businesses, give more autonomy to those business owners to be able to take and bring their solution to the table, and then assist them with solving that problem.
I think that's a fantastic approach towards it, rather than considering that it's a very complicated setup sometimes when you have more than 5-10 different types of different types of businesses not in the same line of industry. And you very well said that if you're heading the group CFO role, you need to give them a bit of independence and autonomy. But we have been speaking about the journey that we have gone through, the transformation that you have done. But again, it also means that, are you ready for the future? Because disruption has become norm these days.
Absolutely.
And are we, whether it is technology or whether it is geographical issues. And then obviously the big subject that is coming up is of ESG. And that ESG I believe that in no time will catch up as a key ESG certification, or ESG goals will catch up as a key KPI for a CFO or a CXO. What is your opinion on that, and how can we lead in driving sustainability?
I think ESG has three parts to it. One is the S and the G, which is the social and the governance part.
Okay.
I think definitely any CXO needs to embed the S and G part as a core part of functioning. Social elements with regards to their employees, their relationship within their team, the diversity and all of those have to be well embedded as part of the day-to-day culture and values. The governance part, again, I think no CFO in the company can be independently talking about culture of a company if they don't have the right governance and compliance standards set for themselves. And this comes where it comes to the board reporting, the shareholder management, reporting on compliance and statutory requirements, internal audit, right? So all of those becomes core bread and butter as CFOs and CXOs. And I think no CFO or CXO has any allowance when it comes to the S and G part.
Okay.
Those are core bread and butters. But today, as the environmental elements pick up, I think the question comes in as, what can the CFOs do on environmental issues as well? So, how do we encourage recycling programs, environmental sustainability, and other elements to it? I think ensuring there is sufficient program and ownership around the environmental part in the business is something that we need to be driving. And We can be selfish about it, saying that I'm doing it to drive a cost saving for the company in terms of energy efficiency bills and waste recycling potential out there. But it is also actually at the end of the day going to help the larger community by delivering that back to the business. So even if we are not doing it from any other motive, at least the CFOs have to be selfish enough to ask for environmental related savings, and at least that will contribute to the organization
and the community
at a certain way.
Very well said. I think again, ESG, environments, social governance, they are key KPIs coming up. And as senior managers or senior CFO role in the company, we need to ensure that we are part of it, not just waiting for somebody to give us an ESG goal. It's very important, not just for us, but to lay that foundation for the next generation, and also for the other finance leaders who are young finance leaders who are now living in a different world. I would say, not the same world that I lived in. They have different priorities in life. So I'm just transcending to that subject, is about the finance, the next generation of finance talent. I'm totally excited when I see what is happening, when I see new people coming in, from the finance world, how different they are in terms of technology, how adapted they are in terms of technology. So I would say that to attract and retain, it's two key things. Retention has become a big subject in this modern world. What is your point of view on that? How do we attract and retain them?
See, I think the fundamental start needs to be with education. I think I still see a lot of financial programs very very structured towards the technical know-how of accounting. And I think today, with the amount of systems and AI tools that we have, I don't think anybody talks about debit credits anymore. I mean, how many discussions do you have with an accountant? How many accountants do you tell them go debit this and credit this? Nobody talks about those elements anymore. Yes. And I think that's the transformation that is happening within the business field, and I think that needs to be actually reflected within the educational stream of the next generation that's going to come through. And I think as the leaders that are going to hire for the next course of the business, I think our focus needs to be on utilizing skill sets that are able to analyze and give you outputs based on the data that you have, rather than trying to get them to input data and manage data per se. And I think having those people into the business, those specialists into the company, are the ones you're going to retain and train for the next level of business ownership.
So let me interrupt you there. You are saying that somebody who knows how to ask the right question.
Yes.
Rather than just doing some input in one corner of the world.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So in terms of retention also, I believe, what's your point of your opinion on that, or your advice on that? Because retention, again, I feel it's not easy these days. People are moving very fast because they're not happy. It's not just about the systems that we use. It's also about the work environment.
Correct.
Have you experienced where you have a retention challenge, and what have you worked on? How do you work on that?
See, I think there was definitely a cycle. I mean, today there are multiple jobs opening up, and there's a lot of availability of good positions available for different people. But I think in terms of retention, I think we have been fairly blessed with a very good team, by where we want to actually build this team for the future, and they understand that there's a lot more potential for them to grow. I think when you look at the problem statement today, many of these young talents that we have within the organization do not want to do mere admin and routine tasks, and to be able to involve them in the more analytical and more future forward-looking work is what keeps these team members engaged and actively involved. So this is where we have tried to develop programs for young leaders, rising stars, try to get them involved into different types of committees, try to get them on different types of projects. Right now we're going through this transformation project on how to bring AI-based dashboards, and we've got some of our most diverse team members from different fields working on that platform all together along with the senior leadership. So they're feeling as if they're contributing, and that's the way that it has to go forward. And I think the less we make them do administrative and routine tasks, the more that we're able to automate those is how we're going to be able to retain them in the future. Because they know what's the future of the company. They know what's in store for them,
Yes.
and therefore they know that what they do today in terms of transforming the systems is actually going to be their future in the next course of few years.
Yes.
So this is where that continuous engagement, team building, in addition to the culture, values, all of that is
True. I think
driven.
I think the culture value you also said is very important. Is these days I see more and more people associate with the ethical stand that a company takes. I think as we talk about financial transformation, I mean this is another subject which we're not going to speak because of time. Is the ethical transformation also for many organization, and many young generation wants to know what is your purpose, what are you doing as the ESG part we spoke about, and for him what is he learning? Is he part of the organization, not just coming in the morning 8 a.m. to 5 a.m. job? Obviously the new generation have this working from home or the different options. Time being the essence, I would go into one more question, and I think that's balancing the innovation and the risk. We have touched this point also in some of the earlier discussions that we had today. There's a future is, we do business plan, we do budgeting, but end of the day there's always uncertainty that comes and knocks your door. We have seen what's the geographical tension going on in the world today. How do we balance that? How do you keep yourself aware of that? Not just because there is something called inward, you look inward and you develop the organization, but there are external threats always.
Absolutely. I think whilst we pray and wish that all the local tensions get resolved, I think as any organization, under whichever circumstances you work under, I think you have to always continue to introspect. And I think one is ensuring that your business model is not significantly high risk. You balance your customer diversification, you balance your employee diversification, you ensure that your structure is agile to the degree possible. I'm definitely sure there are different types of customers and clients who need different types of solutions. But at the same time, you also are continuously trying to see how you are diversified within the external framework. So, is your client macro environment significantly risky? Or is it that you're operating in an environment where you can create certain amount of buffers, not grow too aggressively, but therefore be less risk in the business? But I think at the same time, you have to balance out, as you have rightly mentioned, about what is the output driven that you are trying to get to, what is the result that you're trying to achieve, and how can you do so without creating such a large pressure on your organization that you remove any room for flexibility.
Yes.
So that balance is something which I would say needs continuous review externally and internally.
Yeah, that's the point. I think the review of when you cannot change your objectives every time, but I think the review of the processes, the journey, is key for the transformation itself. And transformation, again, Taher, is a big subject. I think we had a lot of good points today, and I really would like to thank you for your contribution to this topic. I think we had a lot of takeaways. Before we conclude, what do you think would you like to advise to the finance community who's watching our podcast? Key takeaways for today's. I will also lay down some of the key takeaways today.
I think from my end, I think transformation is not about what we end up doing tomorrow. Any transformation step we take has to be part of a larger picture, right? Cannot be about one micro process or a micro step. It has to be a holistic picture, and it has to be talking about an organization in the long term, because anything that is done on a very short term basis is due to become obsolete.
Yes.
Especially when it comes to technology and IT today. So I think people need to take ownership, not for the journey that they think they are with the company. Sometimes people come in and say, I'm here for 2 years, what am I doing? Why should I worry for 10 years? But no. Everybody who is in the organization needs to take an ownership, a responsibility and accountability to build the organization irrespective of their journey along with the business, and they have to deliver that as an output, as a result that is actually visible and makes the change for the people.
How well said. I think as we come to the end of this podcast session, the one that you said in the very early is the why, how, and what. There are a lot of X factors in transformation. I think agility is very key, and as you said, exactly knowing what you want and finding the right tool. So, Taher, thank you once again. I encourage all the listeners to contribute to this podcast with your views, with your thoughts, and thank you for listening to us. Thank you so much, Taher. Very nice to have you here.
Thank you.